the space behind the pantry. The first time I heard someone run through my house, I was standing in the kitchen with every door locked. The footsteps started near the laundry room, crossed the hallway, and stopped directly outside my bedroom. Then someone knocked 3 times. Not on the front door, on the bedroom door behind me. My name is Claire Morgan. I was 47 when this happened, and I had been living alone for almost 2 years after my divorce. I worked remotely as a medical billing specialist, so my schedule was flexible and often terrible. Some nights I answered emails at 2 in the morning. The house was a small brick ranch outside Lexington, Kentucky. It had 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a narrow kitchen, and a converted garage that I used as an office. The neighborhood was quiet. I bought the place because it felt manageable. No stairs, no large yard, nothing complicated. The only unusual feature was a utility corridor behind the laundry room. It was barely 3 feet wide and contained the furnace, water heater, and electrical panel. At the far end was a painted plywood door that opened into the crawl space beneath the house. The seller said the door had not been used in years. That first night, when I heard the knocking, I stood frozen beside my bed with my phone in my hand. I called 911 and whispered that someone was inside. The dispatcher told me to lock the bedroom door and stay there. I pushed a dresser in front of it, then sat on the floor with a heavy brass lamp raised over my shoulder. Nothing else happened. 2 officers arrived 11 minutes later. They checked every room, every closet, the attic hatch, and the crawlspace door. Everything was locked. One officer opened the crawlspace and shined his flashlight beneath the house. He said the ground was dry and undisturbed. There were no footprints, no bedding, no sign anyone had been living there. They suggested the sound might have come from pipes or an animal. I knew pipes did not sound like a person running. For the next week, I barely slept. I bought 2 inexpensive indoor cameras and placed one in the hallway and one facing the laundry room. I also put wooden dowels in the window tracks and changed the screws in the exterior door hinges. Nothing happened for 9 days. Then, on a Tuesday night, I was working in the converted garage when I heard a chair scrape across the kitchen floor. The sound was slow and deliberate. I checked the camera app. The kitchen was empty. The chair beside the table was exactly where I had left it. A few seconds later, my hallway camera sent a motion alert. When I opened the clip, the video showed an empty hallway, but the audio recorded something I had not heard from the office. A woman's voice whispered, "Claire." I replayed it until I felt sick. The voice was faint but clear. It sounded close to the camera, almost as if someone had leaned over it. I called my sister, Dana, and asked her to stay the night. I did not tell her about the whisper because I wanted to know whether she would hear anything without being influenced. At 1:36 a.m., we were sitting on my bed watching television when the footsteps started again. They came from the laundry room. Fast, heavy steps moved down the hall and stopped outside the bedroom. Dana grabbed my arm. This time, instead of knocking, someone dragged a fingernail slowly down the other side of the door. Dana called the police, while I held the dresser against it. The officers searched the house again. They found no one. One of them inspected the crawl space more carefully and noticed that the plywood door had fresh scratches near the latch. He said the marks could have been caused by the door swelling in humid weather, but he photographed them anyway. Dana refused to let me stay alone after that. I moved into her apartment for several days and hired a home inspector named Wesley Grant. I told him I was worried there might be an animal or a structural problem making sounds inside the walls. Wesley spent nearly 3 hours at the house. He found nothing in the attic and no openings large enough for a person beneath the foundation. But when he measured the kitchen wall from inside and compared it to the exterior, he became confused. There was almost 4 feet of missing space. We emptied the narrow pantry beside the refrigerator. At the back, behind 2 shelves, He found a seam painted the same color as the wall. The entire rear panel was a door. It opened into a vertical service shaft about 3 feet wide. An old wooden ladder descended into darkness and another ladder continued upward toward the attic. The shaft did not appear on any inspection report or floor plan. Wesley said the house had probably been remodeled around it decades earlier. It may once have provided access to plumbing between the kitchen and laundry room. At the bottom of the shaft, we found a blanket, empty water bottles, protein bar wrappers, and a small battery speaker. There was also a plastic folder containing printed screenshots from my social media accounts. Some were years old. One showed me standing beside the sold sign in front of the house on the day I moved in. I called the police immediately. Detectives searched the shaft and found a narrow opening leading into the utility corridor. The painted crawlspace door had a second latch on the hidden side. Someone could enter beneath the house through a loose foundation vent, climb into the service shaft, and move between the pantry, attic, and utility room without entering through a normal door. The speaker explained the whispers and some of the footsteps. It had several audio files saved on it: running, knocking, scratching, and a woman softly saying my name. But the police believed at least one person had also been physically inside the shaft while I was home. They set up hidden cameras and told me not to return. For 6 nights, nothing happened. On the 7th night, a man crawled through the foundation vent at 12:48 a.m. Police arrested him inside the service shaft. His name was Owen Pierce. He was 31 and lived less than a mile away with his mother. I had never met him. At least that was what I thought. During questioning, Owen told detectives he had worked for the company that cleaned the house before it was listed for sale. He found the hidden shaft while removing old pantry shelves. Instead of reporting it, he kept a key to the back gate and later loosened the foundation vent. He said he began entering the house after I moved in because he liked watching my routines. The recordings were meant to frighten me, but not enough to make me leave immediately. He wanted me tired and anxious because, according to him, frightened people became predictable. The police found dozens of videos on his phone taken through tiny holes behind the pantry shelves and laundry room wall. He had recorded me cooking, working, and sleeping. I sold the house after the investigation ended. The new owner had the service shaft filled with concrete before moving in. People sometimes ask whether I regret calling the police over footsteps that first night. I do not. What I regret is something else. 3 weeks before the first knocking, I had noticed that one of the pantry shelves was slightly crooked. I straightened it and went back to work. Behind that shelf was the hidden door. Owen was probably standing less than 2 feet away from me when I touched it. The pantry beneath the house. The moment I knew something was wrong was when my friend asked me not to open the pantry door. He said it casually, without looking at me. "If you hear anything in there tonight, leave it alone." Then he smiled like he had made a joke. This happened 3 winters ago in northern Vermont. My name is Daniel Price. I was 34 and living in Boston. An old college friend named Evan Mercer had moved near Jay Peak after inheriting a house from an aunt. We had barely spoken in 5 years, so I was surprised when he invited me up for a weekend. The drive took almost 5 hours. The last 20 miles were narrow roads, lined with dark spruce trees and old farmhouses. By the time I reached his turnoff, the sky was black. Evan's house sat at the end of a gravel lane. It was a 2-story farmhouse with pale siding, a metal roof, and a detached red shed leaning toward the woods. Evan came outside before I parked. He looked thinner than I remembered, with an uneven beard and dark circles under his eyes. He hugged me quickly, then glanced toward the road. "You weren't followed, right?" he asked. I laughed. He did not. Inside, The house was warm but bare. There was a couch, a kitchen table, 2 lamps, and unopened boxes against the walls. It looked as if he had moved in a week earlier instead of 8 months ago. The first floor had a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and a narrow pantry beside the basement door. Evan showed me the guest room upstairs. While we ate frozen pizza, I asked how he liked living so far from town. "It's peaceful when people leave you alone," he said. I asked what that meant. He looked toward the pantry. "That door sticks. Don't force it." Then he added the line about ignoring any noise inside. That evening was mostly normal. We drank beer and talked about college, but Evan kept checking the front window. Whenever headlights passed on the distant road, he stopped speaking. Around 11, I went upstairs. The guest room faced the woods. There were no curtains, only cheap blinds. From the bed, I could see the roof of the red shed and a strip of snow behind it. I woke after 2 to a dull thump below me. Then another. Something scraped across the kitchen floor. Before I could call Evan, his bedroom door opened. He walked downstairs slowly. After a minute, I heard the scrape again, followed by 3 soft knocks. He returned 10 minutes later. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Old pipes," he said. The next morning, there were fresh scratches on the floor in front of the pantry. They were long and parallel, as if something heavy had been dragged away from the door. They were already there, Evan said. They had not been. Later, we drove into town for groceries. While moving my car, I noticed muddy footprints beside the detached shed. They led from the tree line to the back of the house and ended beneath the pantry window. "Were you outside last night?" I asked. "No." Someone was. Probably a hunter. In town, Evan became nervous whenever anyone looked at him. At the grocery store, an older man in a green work jacket nodded at him. Evan immediately turned down another aisle. "He used to help my aunt with the property," Evan said when I asked. That afternoon, heavy snow began. Evan locked both doors and closed every blind. After dinner, I heard a phone vibrating inside the pantry. It buzzed twice, stopped, then buzzed again. Evan froze. "There's a phone in there," I said. "No, there isn't." It buzzed again. He walked to the pantry and pressed one hand against the door. "Not tonight," he whispered. Something shifted on the other side. I asked who he was talking to. He turned around and told me I should leave in the morning. That was when I stopped believing him. I waited until he went upstairs, then examined the pantry door. A small brass latch had been installed near the top. It was positioned to keep someone from opening the door from inside. I lifted it. The pantry smelled like cold concrete and cigarette smoke. Shelves lined one wall, but a hanging blanket covered the back. Behind it was a narrow door cut into the wall. A steep set of steps led down. Using my phone flashlight, I descended into a low room beneath the kitchen, separate from the main basement. There was a mattress, food wrappers, bottled water, a heater, and 2 prepaid phones charging from an extension cord. On a folding table were photographs of Evan's house taken from the woods. There were pictures of Evan sleeping, carrying groceries, and standing in the kitchen. Then I found pictures of me. One showed my car approaching the property. Another showed me unloading my bag. The last had been taken through the guest room window while I slept. A floorboard creaked above me. Someone entered the pantry. A man whispered. He brought somebody. A second voice answered from very close behind me. "I know." I spun around and sprayed the darkness with the pepper spray on my keychain. A man shouted and knocked into the table. I ran up the steps, slammed the hidden door, and shoved a shelf against it. Evan was standing in the kitchen. He did not look surprised. "You opened it," he said. I grabbed my coat and demanded to know who was under the house. Evan began crying. He told me 2 men had been using the property before his aunt died. They had discovered the hidden cellar while doing repairs and later used it to store stolen tools and prescription drugs. When Evan inherited the house, they threatened him. They said they had videos showing him accepting cash from them and would claim the drugs were his if he went to police. I asked why he invited me. He stared at the floor. They wanted someone with a reliable car. The road was buried in snow. My car had all-wheel drive, was newer than Evan's truck, and was registered in another state. He had not invited me to reconnect. He had been told to bring them transportation. The hidden door slammed below us. I shoved past Evan and ran outside. One of the men came through the pantry before I reached my car. He chased me across the yard but slipped in the snow. I locked myself inside and backed down the driveway while he struck the rear window with something metal. I drove 3 miles before I had enough signal to call 911. State police arrested 1 man in the woods and found the other hiding in the detached shed. Inside were stolen tools, medication, fake license plates, and personal information taken from burglarized houses. Evan was arrested too, although he later received a reduced sentence for cooperating. Months later, a detective called me about the photographs. The men had documented every visitor to the property. Most were delivery drivers or contractors, but there was a separate folder with only 3 names. Mine was the most recent. The other 2 people had both been reported missing during the previous winter. Neither of their vehicles had ever been found. The voices on Channel 12. The first time someone spoke through our radio, he described exactly what I was doing. Blue Jacket is checking the fuel line. I was standing beside the harvester with one hand on the hose. My partner, Eli, was nearly half a mile away, and neither of us had spoken for several minutes. That happened in October of 2019, during a logging job in western Montana. My name is Ryan Keller. I was 38 and operated heavy equipment for a timber contractor outside Missoula. Most of my day was spent alone inside a heated cab, using joysticks to control a machine worth more than my house. The site was north of Thompson Falls, on private timberland. Reaching it required an hour on the highway, 40 minutes on gravel, and 6 miles along a temporary mountain road. 4 men worked there during the day, but only Eli Dawson and I stayed overnight. We slept in separate campers beside the machine so we could start before sunrise and keep thieves from stealing diesel or copper. The first week was quiet. Eli operated the forwarder, collecting logs after I cut and stacked them. Since we often worked on opposite sides of a ridge, we used handheld radios. On Thursday afternoon, I was refueling when the unfamiliar voice came through. Blue Jacket is checking the fuel line. The transmission was clear, male voice, calm and almost bored. I grabbed the radio. "Who is this?" Static answered. Eli called immediately. "Did you hear that?" I looked toward the tree line. Nothing moved. We changed from Channel 6 to Channel 12. 5 minutes later, the same voice returned. "Forwarder is turning south." Eli stopped his machine. That was when we understood someone had a direct view of both of us. Our supervisor said it was probably hunters using programmable radios. Hunting season had started, although the property was posted and the access gate was locked. Before dark, We drove the perimeter. Near an old fire break, we found fresh tire tracks crossing the ditch. The tread was wider than anything our crew used. The tracks disappeared between the pines where no road appeared on our map. Eli wanted to leave. I convinced him to stay one more night because a storm was coming, and abandoning the machines without securing them could cost the company thousands. We parked everything near camp, locked the cabs, and ran a steel cable through the fuel caps. My camper was an old 20-foot trailer with a propane heater, narrow bed, and folding table. Eli's was 20 yards away. At 10:17 p.m., my radio crackled from the counter. Lights are off in the first trailer. I hadn't touched it in over an hour. I turned off the heater and listened to rain tapping the roof. Then a second voice answered. Second one still awake. Eli's light was visible through my blinds. I called him. The call failed twice before connecting. They're watching the camp, I whispered. I know. Don't go outside. Neither of us slept. Every 20 or 30 minutes, one of the men spoke. They mentioned our lights, the pickup, even that I had moved from the table to the bed. Around midnight, I taped a flashlight to a broom handle and held it behind the curtain like a person standing near the window. The radio clicked immediately. First trailer has movement. At sunrise, the radio went silent. Behind Eli's camper, we found 2 boot prints in the wet ground. One was less than 6 feet from his bedroom window. We drove to the county sheriff's office. Deputy Marissa Cole listened to recordings I had made on my phone. She followed us back with another deputy. The access gate was still locked, but they found a narrow trail around the fence where several posts had been removed and replaced. A mile beyond our work area, hidden under branches, they discovered a small camp, a green tent, food cans, fuel containers, a radio scanner, and printed maps of the property. Our equipment yard and the only bridge leading out were circled. The deputies photographed everything and advised us not to stay alone. Our supervisor sent 2 additional workers. With 6 people at camp, the transmissions stopped. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then Travis, one of the new men, found a steel cable stretched across the temporary road at chest height, just beyond a blind corner. A driver would not have seen it in time. The company shut down the job. We loaded the smaller equipment in arranged transport trucks for the harvester and forwarder. Eli and I agreed to remain until morning because the machines could not be left unsecured. 2 deputies promised to check the site before midnight. At 11:40 p.m., headlights appeared on the ridge. They weren't coming from the access road. They moved slowly through the trees along the hidden trail. Eli ran to my trailer. The radio crackled. Both are in the first unit. Then the second voice said, "Take the truck first." We turned off the lights and watched through a gap in the blinds. A dark pickup rolled into camp without headlights. 2 men got out. One carried a fuel can. The other held a pry bar. They walked directly toward our company truck. Then a third man stepped from behind my trailer. He was close enough that I saw rain shining on his hood. He grabbed the door handle and pulled. The locked door shook in its frame. The radio on the counter came alive. "Open it." The man pulled again. Eli grabbed the fire extinguisher beside the stove. I took the bear spray. The pry bar struck the door, bending it inward. I sprayed through the gap. The man screamed and fell backward. Eli shoved the door open and hit him in the chest with the extinguisher. We ran toward the harvester. The other 2 chased us, but they hadn't expected us to climb into a machine. I started the engine and raised the cutting head. A harvester moves slowly, but its boom can sweep across a wide area. I rotated it between us and the men and aimed the work lights at them. They stopped. Eli called 911 from the cab. One man ran into the woods. The other tried to drag the injured man toward their pickup. Before they could leave, headlights appeared on the access road. The deputies had arrived early. 2 men were arrested at camp. The third was found the next afternoon hiding in a drainage culvert. The explanation was simple, but calculated. They had been stealing fuel, tools, and machine parts from remote job sites across Montana and Idaho. They monitored crews with scanners and used hunting radios to coordinate. When they realized we could hear them, they began describing our movements to frighten us into abandoning the equipment. The cable across the road was meant to stop our pickup long enough for them to intimidate us and force us away. During a search of their truck, deputies found photographs of 6 other logging camps. Notes beneath them listed crew sizes, shift changes, and where keys were stored. There was one picture of our camp that still bothers me. It had been taken on our first night, before the strange transmissions began. Eli and I were standing beside the fire, drinking coffee. On the back, someone had written, "2 men, both stay overnight. Older one refuses to leave." I was the older one. They hadn't started watching us after we heard the radio. They had chosen us before we ever knew they were there. Before you leave, let me know in the comments what you think really happened. And if you enjoy true horror stories, don't forget to subscribe. There are plenty more waiting for you.